Council, we'll bring the, call the meeting to order. Hang on a second, we have feedback. Everybody hear me okay?
Clear as a bell, sir.
Okay, so we'll start again. We'll call the meeting to order. Members of council, you've had a chance to look at items on the agenda. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. First item on the agenda, item D1, SD Development, Wyoming and Alice rezoning application. Mr. Solani, are you with us? You see him?
Yes, Your Worship, just getting the mic on there. Miss Tracy Pilon Abs is the applicant agent for this particular application. She prepared a planning justification report, and I believe she is on the line here. Probably would be appropriate if she gives an overview of the application, and then we can then provide staff comments and recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Solani.
If we can let Mrs. Pilon Abs into the room at this point.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So this would be a time where you would like to see a small presentation. So just so this is with respect to the Wyoming Avenue application, I just want to confirm I did come in a little late.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you for clarification. So yes, thank you to the committee, sorry. The proposal is 60 units in total. It's 2 3-story mid-rise apartments with covered parking and some exterior parking. It requires a rezoning from the 2 zones that it currently is in. It's in an R4 holding and a C4 holding. So it's requested to change the zoning to an R5-10, which is a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment that will customize the building and the locations and setbacks for this particular development. The official plan is designated LaSalle Town Center, which permits mixed-use developments, including residential uses like this at least 3 stories in height. The proposal will have landscaping. There'll be no balconies. There'll be sort of faux balconies. And the main entrance will be facing onto Wyoming Avenue. That's the reason why we wanted to push the building as close to the road as possible to give it a really nice, strong street presence and put all the parking in the back where nobody can see it. The covered parking also provides for a buffer between the commercial use to the abutting property. And we did do a noise study to confirm that there will be some materials that will be used to help create some more buffering from the building to the commercial uses. It is subject to site plan control and a consent application, as other applications will be considered. Studies that were completed on this project were the species at risk, a functional servicing report, and again, like I mentioned, the noise study. We didn't do a traffic impact study as the town had already done some work in the area, and we're satisfied with the traffic volumes. And administration supports the recommendation, or sorry, we support the administration's recommendation that's before you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Solani?
Just a few comments to add to Ms. Pilon Ab's presentation. Staff, both planning and engineering, are satisfied that this is an appropriate change in land use at this location. It will add much needed rental apartment style units at a location where transit is within walking distance, shopping and various services, including municipal services, the library, the senior centers, is all within walking distance. So it is an appropriate location, and it's in keeping with the official plan that has been adopted for this area as a town center. As Ms. Pilon-Abs indicated, there will be a subsequent application submitted with respect to site plan control, and that's where we'll get the detailed site servicing drawings, landscape drawings, and so forth. You'll see as part of the package, there was a conceptual architectural drawing that shows the exterior of the three-story building. And as we understand, the builder developers are looking at building this likely in 2 phases, with one building being phase 1 and then the second building being built as phase 2. So with that, we're available if there's any questions.
Council questions? Oh, one comment from Mr. Militia, please.
Sorry, just bearing with us as this is our first live type of public input session. So again, Mr. LaPera and Mr. Segan are also in the waiting room. So if we could let them in as well in the event that they have a question or two or any comments to make.
Okay, it looks like they're in the room. Council questions? Councillor Reno, then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking through the report and looking through the plan, my first thought was I hate to see the loss of potential retail area, industrial area. There seemed to be a vision of that strip a couple years ago with the infilling of the LCBO and things. But I will say that apartments and rentals are something that we're in very short supply in LaSalle. So I fully support this project. I think this is something that the town needs, and I can't think of a better location. So thank you, gentlemen, for your work.
Thank you, Councillor Reno. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to, actually, I'm not sure if this would go to Larry. I know we discussed that the building is going to be put closer to Wyoming Street. Is it within our guidelines, or are we asking for an exemption on that to be able to move the building as close to the street as possible? That was a comment earlier.
This would meet the requirements for the town at this location within the town center. The street edge building that's being proposed is in keeping with those guidelines.
Okay, and then my only other question, when speaking about parking, 2 issues with parking, not issues, just questions, sorry. I know you said the garages in the back are to help with noise. Are they looking at putting something on the side of the building between the commercial plaza and the units being put in place? And also, is 4 accessible parking spots all that's required for that many living spaces?
The answer to your 2-part question, the first one is that the noise study has come back and has concluded that by use of the building materials and the type of windows and the fact that there will not be balconies, addresses the noise requirements in terms of the location of nearby commercial to the west and to the south. With respect to the accessible parking, what is proposed meets the requirements, but that is something that will be looked at in greater detail when we get into the site plan. At this point in time, what is before you is a conceptual plan. Staff, both planning and engineering staff, are still going to be looking at that once the detailed design comes in as part of the site plan control approval.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Larry. So the parking or the entrance on Ellis, does that give us enough space coming up to the corner of Wyoming, and also with the future possible development that's going on that street? So is that entrance sufficient enough? I know it's here, but would that be enough to offset the amount of volume that's going to be there? Will it be protected?
Yeah, the distance of that entrance from the corner of Wyoming and Ellis has been reviewed by engineering, and we're satisfied that it is sufficiently offset to be an appropriate location. And as well noting that there's also the entrance to Wyoming. So the traffic will split between Wyoming and Ellis, and it's not just one single means of access.
Okay, thanks. It looks similar to what we were seeing when we went on that trip to Oakville, if you remember, back in the day.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, Councillor Carrick, yes.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Councillor Dicho Spagnuolo, did you have your hand up? No? Okay, now we go to Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Pilon Abs, is it safe to assume, and I don't like to use that word, that some of these units will be accessible units?
That's a good question. There is a floor plan that has been considered, and I believe that the developer will be looking at accessibility options. But you're right, there's certainly no guarantees at this time until we get into our building permit stage.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I have one. Ms. Pilon Abs, I thought in your opening statement you said 60. Is it 60 or going to be 80 units?
It'll be 80 units in total. So that's 2 3-story high rises with 40 units in each.
Okay, that's what I read, but I heard differently, so I apologize. I'm getting old, my hearing's going. Okay, council's pleasure.
I'll support the recommendation.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Desjardins, supported by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Are we, Ms. Pilon Abs, for the second item on the agenda?
Yes, as we get ready for the second item on the agenda, if we could ask Ms. Pilon Abs to remain in the room. And again, we have a representative from Breezeball Law Firm as well as Mrs. Kelly, I believe that's in the waiting room.
Our Director of IT has a couple of things to take care of, so we just bear with him. Okay. Mr. Burgess, this one's yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. If Ms. Abs could provide us with her brief presentation, and then we'll follow with any administrative comments.
Okay. Ms. Pilon Abs, welcome again.
Thank you again to the mayor and members of council. The proposal before you is vacant land located on the corner of Front Road and Senator Drive. What's proposed is a parking lot for a site adjacent to a proposed office. They will be constructed at the same time, but the parking lot sits outside of your commercial zone and required a rezoning application from residential R1 to commercial C2. The official plan designates this area waterfront district, which permits this type of use. It includes offices and parking spots. This particular office will be for a dentist. The property is the same depth as all of the commercial lands along Front Road. The combined frontage of the property is on Front Road, and it has no access on Senator Drive at all. So what you'll see off of Senator Drive is just a row of landscape, which will have 2 rows of trees, and there'll be trees on the abutting residential properties, 1 row of trees. It is subject to site plan control, so we'll work with municipality to work out the full details about specifically the parking location, the garbage and so on. But again, we support administration's recommendation on this to rezone the parking lot portion from R1 to C2. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Your Worship. The proposal before you basically completes the commercial corridor in that area. With the combination of these two properties, it provides sufficient parking to allow for the dentist's office to properly operate. We've worked a great deal with the designer and the planner to come up with a functional site plan, which both provides for that parking, but also provides adequate buffering for all the existing residents around it. There were some concerns raised by the neighbors with regards to lighting, the parking, and lighting will be taken care of through site plan control with cutoff lighting. The landscaping is there again to provide for noise buffering, and drainage on the property is being taken care of through with our engineering department working along with the consultant for the project. We are satisfied with the site plan as it's presented, and we'll be working, provided council approves, we'll be working with the proponent to complete the site plan control agreement and bring that back before council. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Before we go to Sherry Kelly, is it Shireen Worrell? Do you have any comments before we move on?
Yes, it is, Your Worship. My name is Shireen Worrell. I am an articling student here at Brisbane Law Office. Our office has been retained as to represent Dr. Belanger, and today I'm just appearing as the agent in this matter. Unfortunately, at this time, I have not had a chance to see a copy of the report as of yet. However, our client is asking for the rezoning of the plant site to be approved. And lastly, I would just like to add that our office has been working very closely with the town of LaSalle, looking at all possible options here.
Okay, thank you. Is Sherry Kelly there?
Yes.
Okay,
Hi.
there they are. Okay, hi, Mr.
Hi.
Kelly.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, so being residents of the Senator Street, we have quite a few actually problems with this facing onto, or this parking lot facing onto Senator Street as a commercial property. Number one, where they going to be going in and out of that parking lot. It's an extremely dangerous corner now as you're stopping on Front Road to turn on 9th Street, which is a one-lane road, or Senator Street, which is a one-lane road. And there's usually a car, there's lots of times where there's a car coming the other direction, which then has to slam on the brakes and back up or move out of the way so you can come around that corner. And there's always somebody on your tail when you're turning onto Senator Street. So now you're going to have people coming in and out of a parking lot very close to Senator Street. And it's extremely dangerous now. And now you're going to create more traffic and add to the problems for the people on 9th Street.
Senator.
Or I'm sorry, on Senator Street.
We just built a house and moved there from 9th.
But equally as important is that Senator Street is in huge disrepair and on that one-lane road, and people have to pull onto other lawns and whatnot to get off of there. We've asked the town, we've had private conversations with the town to take care of our flooding on our road, and getting, ridiculous comments like have Orca buy you out and whatnot. There isn't one house on Senator Street that's flooding, not one. The road has sank, and we haven't heard anything about this. And we're looking at the possibility, at least for this, is to get some kind of a turning lane or some way to get off the front road without, somebody slamming up your rear end or turning the corner and finding that there's somebody there because you have to rush. And it's going to create a huge problem there.
Keep going. And then there's noise. I know you said that one row of trees, but we already have noise from the heavy equipment from BASF. We have noise because the garbage truck and the recycle truck have to back down the road because it's so narrow they can't even turn around. We have noise from the boat traffic. We have noise from Front Road, and now we'll have parking lot noise. So one row of trees is not going to solve the noise.
I don't know of
from
any other
cars.
street, I don't know of any other street in LaSalle that is a one-lane road that is owned by the city, that's flooded all year, all summer. And not one of the houses are getting flooded inside the houses. It's just a road issue.
And then as well, making it a commercial neighborhood changes, just zoning it commercial. I mean,
It's only a matter of time before it starts coming down the road. Once you start, you can't, it's gonna be very difficult to stop.
yeah, you'll be setting a precedent to have more commercial on the street, which is inadequate and changes the nature of the neighborhood from being residential and a nature's haven, with all the swans and geese and turtles and all that, to blacktop, which, nature does not coincide with blacktop. The sewers are already inadequate or something, which is causing the road to flood. So now we're going to put blacktop on top and make, potentially more flooding. And I know the engineering department will have looked at that, but, you can't guarantee that you're going to solve the problem with that, because half the time we don't even get any answers, with respect to things. We've still got issues on Senator Street that haven't been resolved from hunting and flooding. And
Yeah,
now
we
this.
brought up hunting 2 years ago, and there was supposed to be a study done about hunting on lands very close to us. They're shooting from land. One of the counselors said, and I can't remember which one, but if I look
okay.
around, I'm sure I can find you. Jeff said that he was going to do a study about Lake St. Clair and how Bell River and everybody else dealt with it. And I think it was a sidestep for the hunters, and it's never been addressed. So
Our quality of
feel that
life.
our quality of life on Senator Street has been diminished greatly, and our property values are going down because the town will not do anything about Senator Street at all. And now you're going to create a dangerous situation for us to even go down our road.
Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Your Worship. Basically, this proposal does not introduce any traffic onto Senator Street.
No, it's on Front Road.
Understood. And the proponent for this development has had their engineer look at traffic and has provided with a traffic memo with regards to the traffic, which will leave this site, and it's in keeping with the town's provisions. With regards to storm drainage, again, Mr. Osborne can speak to this, but he's been working with the applicant's engineer. The storm drainage, which is going to leave this site, is being controlled through a stormwater management system to provide that it doesn't have any effect on the residents on Senator Street. And again, one of the reasons why the landscaping was done the way it was done, the additional landscaping along the back and the side of the property, was so that this proposed development does not have an impact on the abutting residents. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, I'll just make a couple comments in relation to the hunting. The police had a recent meeting with Ira Kruzmerchuk. He's the MP, because it affects us to come see in another area. So they just had a meeting, I believe, a week or maybe 2 weeks ago. It seems to be taking a long time, but it's out of our hands. It has to go through the police and the feds. And as far as upgrades to Senator, I can't see anything being done. Correct me, our engineer's not on here, but I'm assuming nothing will be done till we see what's going to happen with the water levels. If they're going to stay consistent, I'm assuming we'll have to do something. If they're going to recede, then maybe we'll proceed with repairs. But Peter is on the line. Okay, Peter, do you want to add anything to that?
Just waiting for my camera to come in focus. Yeah, so certainly Senator, and there's been a number of streets, Juanita and a lot of the streets that are west of Front Road due to high water levels have been experiencing. There is certainly no indication of the road settling. If the road settled, we would have had experienced broken water mains, improper sanitary drainage because the sanitary sewers run on gravity. Those would not have been working properly. Gas mains would have broken. So there is certainly no indication of roads settling in that nature. We are subject to what we're seeing out there is overland flow, inadequate flood protection, flood walls along most of the private properties. It's flowing in over top of the ways of coming through Manhattan over the break walls in some of those areas. And these areas have existed for many years. It experienced the same thing back in the 80s. It sounds as though the Kellys may be new to the area, so they may not be familiar with what has occurred back in the 80s and things of that nature. But this is not a new situation in the area. The storm drainage out there is a series of individual catch basins and pipes that drain the roads. They're gravity connected to the outlets, which is the Detroit River. And again, water level in the Detroit River, as well as those pipes, are used to take water away. They do bring water back as well. And again, in order to properly solve anything west of Front Road, there's a significant amount of work with respect to ensuring that, one, water doesn't flow back over the land. So all private properties would have to do shore walls, bring up the walls, create some sort of barrier landform along the area to prevent that overland flooding. Once that's done, then there's a series of again, pump stations. And certainly you see a lot of this information going around from various municipalities, and none of this is this is all into the tens and $20 million range. Certainly there's nothing in the immediate future for any of that stuff with respect to certainly Senator Juanita Manhattan, that they have been in this situation for decades and longer than decades, and it has experienced a significant portion. So with respect to the outlet for the property, they are doing their own outlet, doing their own stormwater management, storage. In fact, I believe they actually are building their own pump station in order to hydraulically disconnect themselves from the system so that they drain and they have an outlet directly to one of the outlet pipes into the Detroit River. So with that, hopefully that provides you the information, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for the update.
Yes, so
Mrs. Kelly, I was just being kind because this is not the venue for Senator Road. It was just in relation to this new construction. So
yeah.
Mark, one more small item there to Peter's point.
Okay.
There isn't one drop of water coming over land on Senator Street. I understand on Juanita, it's very low. There isn't one drop
Yeah,
of
there
water
is
over there.
up by Ron's, but we live at the end and we've been flooded since May, and it's coming through the
All
sewer.
through the sewer.
It's coming through the sewer. The road is slippery. I slipped and fell on it a month ago.
We lost a dog who was drinking water out of the street, out of the water on the road.
He got a bacterial infection from the road water. But regardless, the point is, I understand what you're saying about the road, about the flooding issues, but the point is that adding blacktop and diverting water to the river will that not mean that more water is going to come up the sewer and make our road worse? And besides the flooding aspect, the road is inadequate. You're going to zone, how many places have a one-way street zoned commercial that isn't even adequate for a garbage truck to go down?
Next to a busy, now it's going to be next. So I understand there's a study done, Alan, appreciate that, but there's going to be a lot of cars coming in and out of that parking lot, and it's very close to where you have to turn. And there's trees and things that are in the way that you can't even see if there's a car coming up Senator. You can't see around the corner. If there's a car coming up Senator and it's a one-lane road, they have nowhere to go should you turn that corner. And if that better have taken in, that had to have come into some kind of your plan somewhere. Something had to be discussed somewhere, because I almost get rear-ended every day now. And now if you're adding that parking lot, those people coming out of that parking lot, it's going to create a bigger issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly. Council questions? Seeing Councillor Desjardins, then Councillor Akpata.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wanted just to confirm something that's in the report that says that the proposed site has no vehicular access to Senator in an additional effort to reduce the effects of the development on Senator. Is that correct? So the only enter and exit off Front Road?
That is correct.
Councillor Akpata.
Your worship, my colleague asked my question. I'm satisfied with the response.
Okay, further to that, so I agree with that. I understand that it's not going to come onto Senator. The problem is that you have to stop on Front Road to come to a dead stop because it's a very sharp turn to turn onto Senator Street. And the access to the parking lot for the dental office is going to be directly in line with you having to stop. So there's going to be cars going in and out, and you're already almost getting rear-ended on a daily basis because people are coming up Front Road right behind you, and there's no place to turn. You have to stop on Front Road.
And the noise and the commercial aspect. There's lots of aspects for this.
Mr. Burgess, I think you're going to reply to that last question.
Again, basically the consultants have looked at traffic. They have provided us with adequate information that they're satisfied that the amount of traffic that will be generated from the site will not have an adverse impact. With regards to the issue of noise, again, we are working with the applicant with regards to the noise attenuation as far as the fencing and the landscaping, which is going to be on the site. So again, that's an issue that was well thought of when the proposal was first brought forward and continues to be a mindful item, which we'll continue to work with them on. With regards to the impact of the commercial development on the portion of residential property that which Mr. and Mrs. Kelly have, this is just a natural boundary which occurs. If you look at other properties along Front Road, the property to which this is going to be adjoined is already at this depth. We're not going back another 100, 200, 300, 400 feet. This is at this exact same limit as the neighboring property. When the property across the road develops and redevelops, again, the natural boundary is already established by its sheer size. So again, there's no intent that you're going to see a pop-up of commercial businesses up and down Kelly or Juanita streets. You know, again, they are very small streets, and that's a prime reason why we've created and worked with the applicant to make sure that there is no impact as far as traffic on that street, because naturally, if they had an intersection there, then there would be a need to try to, what can you do? How can you improve it? In this case, there is no way at this time. So this is the best way of dealing with commercial traffic. And also considering the lot where the dental office originally sits on is already zoned commercial. It already has a commercial access at that point. So this is merely adding additional parking, which will further satisfy and prevent the impact onto Senator Street. Thank you.
One more item there then, I guess, is it possible to revisit and look at putting a turning lane or cutting in a turning lane for Senator Street on Front Road?
I would suggest that that's a question for the town engineer.
Good question, Mr. Kelly, but it doesn't apply to this specific proposal right now.
No, it does, Mark. I disagree. With all due respect, if I get rear-ended on Front Road because I have to hold up traffic, somebody's coming out of the dental office, traffic is piling up behind me, and I have to wait for somebody to come off of Senator Street because it's a one-lane road, and I'm sitting on Front Road and I have to stop dead and wait, physically wait till somebody comes off Senator Street. There's nowhere to stop, and there's cars coming up at 60, 80 kilometers an hour all the time.
Okay.
So I say it does.
Okay. Ms. Pilon-Abs.
Thank you. Just further to what Mr. Burgess has added, I'd like to expand further to note that for garbage pickup, the traffic will go on to the property from Front Road, and the garbage refuse is in the back of the building furthest away from Senator. So that was designed that way to help eliminate any noise or conflict in land uses. I should mention that surrounding the parking lot is also a 4-foot fence in addition to the landscaping, which should help with both visual and noise issues. And then lastly, there is currently one house on that property that has access onto Senator. So sort of by removing this house and replacing it with a parking lot and eliminating any access to Senator, that's one less house that has access onto that road, which might help a little bit with the amount of traffic that's generated onto that side road. Thank you for that opportunity to add that information.
Okay, council's pleasure. Deputy Mayor Malash.
I just have one quick question, to Mr. Burgess. I think we mentioned the buffering areas around the new additional parking spots, but what about, is there not still a house, I think there is, on Front Road? When I'm looking at the site plan that you provided us, it doesn't show any buffering between the small front lot going into where the house is or the back lot. It has a big opening and unfortunately the writing's too small and I can't see what it says.
Through you, your worship, that you're correct. The current home, which is situated on Front Road, is actually zoned commercial. There's no requirements at this time within the zoning bylaw to require any further buffering or landscaping. What's actually being done is, as we go through the site plan control process, the opening which is being left along the strip will actually allow for an interconnection. So again, the whole idea is that these properties, like what we have here on in the Malden Road corridor, will have interconnected parking areas. So when the home on the corner of Front Road redevelops, it would be able to do so with an interconnection through the dental facility, and then again, eventually continuing on through to the further properties north of this.
And just information on that, the home right now, is it residential and occupied?
The home is, as far as I'm aware, there's currently individuals in that home. I don't know whether it's owned or how it's occupied, but there is a single family dwelling currently at that location, which is ready for redevelopment.
Okay, I'm just concerned that that property owner is going to come forward as well and wonder why we've left this opening at the back of their property and not provided them any buffering between the cars and their home. But I'm assuming we haven't heard from them.
There has been no contact from anyone other than the neighbor to the first neighbor on Senator Street. The home on the corner has not come forward, asked any questions of staff or administration.
And just furthermore, then, if by chance, for some reason, they've been traveling during COVID and didn't get any of this information and they came to us, would our developer be willing to consider some sort of buffering for that property if needed?
I will add, there is on the site plan, there is shown a 6-foot high privacy fence along the rear of the existing dwelling on the corner. I get the question through to Ms. Pilon-Abs would be whether or not there would be a possibility of constructing a privacy fence along the interface between the existing commercial development and this property. Again, typically the town would not require fencing between two commercial properties. However, because of the use of the property, that might be something which council may want to consider. My only caveat with that would be is we'd want to look at how far that fence would extend into the front yard because of visibility issues. So we wouldn't want to further make a situation more difficult if visibility is an issue.
Thank you. So,
Go ahead, Kristen.
okay, so I just want to confirm before we get to the next phase of voting on this. This is already zoned commercial. The only thing we're really
No, it's not. It's not zone commercial.
The matter before you is that the site where the dental office is, which fronts onto Front Road, is zoned commercial.
Okay.
The property that's being rezoned this evening is the small property which currently fronts onto Senator Street, which will be merged with the property on Front Road and is in keeping with the same depth as the property on Front Road.
Thank you.
Alan, just a question. So you speak about this home that's zoned commercial. If they came to us tomorrow and wanted to build a building that's fit within the zoning, there'd be no approval to come to us. They could just proceed with site plan approval and get a building permit and move on. Is that correct?
Through yourself, your worship, the property would require site plan control approval, but the property is already zoned. So by right, they have the ability to develop that property commercially.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mike.
Oh, Councillor Akpata had a question, and then Councillor Carrick.
Sir, you asked my question. You've clarified the same thing that I wanted to ask of Mr. Burgess. Thank you.
Councillor Carrick.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to Alan, I guess the Front Road is 4 lanes. It's not 2 lanes. I guess the concern, is Senator, the traffic going on and off of Senator is a bit of a concern. I know we can't build a turning lane at this point, but maybe down the road something we can look at. But again, we're here to promote businesses on Front Road. I think we've all made that decision. And the fact that Front Road is 4 lanes, not 2, I mean, people have to stop. I know it's a bad spot. Like it could be considered a bad spot. And I know the people that are on the Senator and everywhere else you pull off of there, even if you look at the workout place, it's similar. There's people going up and down there. So I know there's a bit of a corner there, but at the same time, it's 4 lanes, it's not 2. So people have an option to merge over and get away. So, I mean, and it's already zoned, the front portion. And the fact that they're going to close in the parking lot, I think they've done the best they can do. And I think I can't not support this. Thank you.
Seeing no more questions, council's pleasure. Councillor Reno.
I'm sorry, I had one quick question. It could be something for Ms. Pilon-Abs. This dental office that's being built, there's a lot of parking. I see parking up front as well as parking on the side. Do we know how many professionals are going to be working in this building? I would think that a lot of this side parking would be for their staff parking, which is going to come in, once in the morning and the afternoon. Could you clarify that if possible?
Yes, through you, Mayor and members of council. At this time, it's just the dental office that will be going in there. And you are correct. Most likely, it'll be more convenient for people to come in and out using the front portion of that parking and having staff park in the back. That's certainly something we can discuss with the property owner if they want to put some signage on there. But what we're trying to do is just comply with the minimum requirements for parking in a commercial zone for this type of use.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Was there any other questions from council members? Seeing none, council's pleasure on the recommendation. All 3. Councillor Carrick, moved by Councillor Carrick, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. All in favor? That carries. Thank you.
As we move to the next item on the agenda, we're just going to admit Ms. Muir, Mr. Edmonds, and Mr. Demore, who are currently in the waiting room. And then I think the representative from Brisbane Law will put back in the waiting room along with Mr. and Mrs. Kelly. I believe that we have everybody in the room that everyone that is in the room that should be there.
Okay, welcome. Mr. Demore, Ms. Muir, and Mr. Edmonds. I'm assuming, Alan, you want the applicant to go first? You muted, Alan. Alan, you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
In this case, this is basically a staff report for this planning matter to come before you. Mr. Edmonds and Ms. Muir are here for council questions. Basically, in this instance, we are looking forward to bring forward to council for the adoption of the part lot control bylaw, which will therefore allow these properties to be divided, and we can then move forward with bringing this matter to the county planner for approval and be able to get these lots ready for building. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, I'll turn it over to council questions. Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to our staff. This will resolve the issue with these lots then. From what I understand, I asked a question last meeting about the gas line and things of that nature, and I understand that this is the outcome that will allow these folks to go forward with construction and rezoning of their property. Is that what I understand to be correct, sir?
That is correct. This, with the passing of this bylaw, what will occur is, again, the county planner will provide their approval. This matter will then be, or the bylaw will then be approved by the registry office. Once that process is complete, we will then be in a position to allow for building permits to be issued. So, so this is a two-phase. So in the first phase will be the original lots, save and accept, the ones which had to be redirected as a result of the redistribution for the road closure. We'll then go forward with the second bylaw, which will be at the next council meeting, which will be the approval for that part lot control bylaw, which will allow for the final 3 lots to be approved. But in the meantime, while that process is taking place, the other lots will be available for building permits once the process is completed. And it's estimated that that will take approximately 30 days, give or take, depending on the approval speed of other agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Those are my questions, Your Worship.
Seeing no other questions, council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Akpata, second by Councillor Edicio Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. If I could ask council to stay on, please, for a couple minutes. Officially, meeting's adjourned.